So we are here to talk about SharePoint Framework, what is the landscape of SharePoint and Office 365 development we have. So just a brief about me first of all. My name is Vipul Jain. I'm a Microsoft certified professional. I'm having 10 years of experience, you can say training, consulting, and development experience on SharePoint, Office 365, Power Apps, Flows, Nintex, and many more, including Azure. So I'm also a cloud platform certified professional, you can say Azure certified. So this is the agenda for this particular training. It will be divided into different modules. The module one will cover the SharePoint framework overview, in which I will explain about the various development options which we had earlier and which we have now. It will give you also an overview of the tool chain of SharePoint framework and how it fits into SharePoint development story probably. So we'll cover specifically what is SharePoint framework, why it is required, what are the modern tool chains, or what are the future technologies. In module 2, you will be prepared for preparing your machine for the SharePoint framework, wherein we will set up the Office 365 E3 license tenant, obviously without credit cards, so no credit cards would be required. And we will also install Visual Studio Code, Node.js, and many other packages, Yeoman, Gulp, and so on. So if I talk about the module 3, that is related to the Node.js modules. In this module, we will set up a node-based project. Please remember, I'm talking about a node-based project, not a SharePoint framework project for module 3. So in this module, I will explain you how a node.js project is structured. I will explain the role of different components contained within the code and how to scaffold a project from scratch. So I'm assuming that you all are from SharePoint background or .NET framework background, and you have little idea about what SPFx is or what SharePoint is and how it works. But you might have used SharePoint framework Yeoman generator also, but you might not be knowing that how to scaffold or structure a project from scratch. So that you will see during this training. In the module 4, I will be talking about SharePoint framework client web parts, that what are client web parts and how Yeoman generates your complete structure for a particular project. The other module, I'll talk about TypeScript. As you can see on the screen, module 5 talks about the TypeScript, that how TypeScript solves many of our problems which are discussed, which will be discussed in the previous modules. Also, it adds how type annotations and code compilation to your development process. Then I'll talk about some client web parts again, SharePoint framework client web parts, and I will also tell you about how to add property panes, how to use them, and how to do the CRUD operations, that is create, read, update, delete, using no JavaScript framework or React.js. And in the module 7, we will see that how we can load SharePoint data in a client web part, how we can bundle it, how we can ship our Office 365 or SPFx web part in the Office 365 app catalog. Then we'll talk about React.js essentials, where I will be covering all the React.js basics, starting from components, JSX, props, everything will be covered in detail. What are the different states? What is the life cycle, versioning, everything will be covered in module 8. In module 9, I will talk about first multi-page application. What is the difference between a multi-page application and a single-page application? And then I will talk also about the routing process or the routing mechanism of React.js. And then comes to module 10, how we can deploy SharePoint artifacts. And then module 11, where I'll be talking about extensions. Till module 9 or till module 10, we will be talking about SharePoint framework web parts. And then in module 11, I will be talking about framework extensions. What are the different types of extensions you can create with SPFx? So let's get started. This was just the agenda, a brief overview of the agenda, what will be covered during the course of this training, and how much you will get benefited out of it. So let's start with a little history quickly, that what are the different versions till now we have in SharePoint. I very well understand 2019 is also in the picture now. So the journey started from SharePoint Portal Server 2001. The code name which was given to it was Tahoe. and it was based on simple ASP, particularly on ASP, nothing else. Then another version introduced got 2003, which was based on ASP.NET. Web parts got introduced in that version. Then in 2007, or you can say in mid of 2006, another version got introduced, which was MOS 2007, which introduced shared services concept and publishing concepts. And the most stable version, I will say, in my opinion, which introduced in again mid of 2009, which we say SharePoint Server 2010. Fast acquisition, Microsoft acquired fast services during this SharePoint installation. Shared services again became service applications, and CSOM, client-side object model, also got introduced. Before this, we were using server-side object model. Then in SharePoint Server 2013, concept of add-ins came into picture. Search-driven publishing sites were there, and many client-side rendering web parts got introduced. And then in SharePoint 2016, if I talk about, along with Office 365, that yes, we can create hybrid solutions, modern solutions, and also SPFx solutions. So this is again a brief history in a pictorial representation, you can say, of SharePoint development. It is started with a farm solution. We all know that that was a full trust code or WSP solution where we used to deploy WSPs, and it was a full trust code solution running on a farm, SharePoint farm. Then sandbox solution came into picture, where they were defined in a particular sandbox, or you can say defined on a particular site collection. They were not deployed at the farm level. Then we have the add-in model, or you can say app model, which was later renamed to add-ins, where we generally create iframes and that kind of representation. And then we have a script injection, wherein we use content editor web parts or script editor web parts to inject our scripts. We also have a called no script capability, which in my opinion, I say it as disability. Reason being, this no script is a tenant-wide setting, which removes all your content editor web parts and scripts from the page. And then the SharePoint framework, the modern tool chain, you can say. So what are the various SharePoint extensibility principles we will be talking about? So what happens that developers today, they find themselves constrained around building apps. Why people are not building apps now, or why developers are not moving towards add-ins? Because they are a result of iframe. So they are constrained in an iframe journey. They have reduced set of APIs, and there is no integration with, you can say, cross Office 365 workloads. So this limit their ability to develop, you can say, powerful portals. So client-side framework development, it will help developers to build powerful, rich application, and will also provide an enjoyable web experience in Office 365. Okay, so what does SharePoint framework is providing us to the developers now? So it's a modern client-side development. We all know we are talking about modern development, which includes REST APIs, Microsoft Graph solutions, Microsoft Graph APIs, and so on. These APIs are very lightweight. They are very much responsive in nature. Your application will become fast. It is backward compatible with other versions also. And the most important one, which I will say, that it supports open source tools in JavaScript framework. So I will say that SPFx, SharePoint framework, is framework agnostic. When I say framework agnostic, you can use any kind of framework, be it jQuery, be it React, be it Knockout, Angular, and so on. So you can use anything during your development. So it works in Office 365. These are the advantages, you can say, of SPFx. It allows you to write client-side web parts, and it uses, of course, modern technologies. Now let's come to that. What is a modern page? So modern page is, yes, client-side rendered. It is responsive in nature. It is very fast. And you can say caching mechanism is very much, you can say, optimized in these modern pages. You can create modern pages in SharePoint, going in SharePoint site pages. So I'll talk about little of the landscape of SharePoint and Office 365 development. So whenever I'm asked to develop an application for Office 365 or SharePoint, the first question would I like to ask is, does my application work in Office 365? Or does it become a part of user interface? Or maybe does it look like a part of the product as it shipped from Microsoft? An example of an application that works inside Office 365 could be web parts, and we very well know what are web parts. Even Office 365 developers, O365 developers, or even business users, they know what web parts are. But here we will only talk about client-side web parts. So SPFx, I will abbreviate is every time SPFx, SharePoint Framework. So in today's world, it works in Office 365 and SharePoint on-premise version as well. And it allows you to write web parts, but the correct word to use specifically is the client-side web part, because they are built using TypeScript, which we will be covering in our one of the module. And they use modern technologies, specifically NPM, that is Node Package Manager based development. It uses Gulp, Yeoman, TypeScript, those sort of technologies, you can say. So SharePoint Framework also does not care what library or framework you are using, be it Angular, Knockout, or React. Now, the obvious question at this point is, why SharePoint Framework? So we have already talked about that there were farm solutions. There were, if I go to my previous slide, we have already talked about farm solution, sandbox solutions, add-ins, script injections, no script capabilities, and finally we are talking about SharePoint Framework. So let's get started with the NPM based projects. Let's set up the development environment. Let's do some demo activities. Let me check if anything has been left in the slide. So I was talking about modern development. So these are the modern site pages which we are going to develop and going to write our client-side web parts on modern site pages. They are very easy to create, very powerful, very fast, I will say, as compared to traditional theme sites, or you can say traditional pages. They are the modern building blocks. They are support on every device, and they get better with the Microsoft Graph. Microsoft is using these APIs, Microsoft Graph, extensively. So tools and libraries. So what are the open source tooling this SharePoint framework or we during this training will be using? For build processing and tooling, we will be using Yeoman, Gulp, NPM, and TypeScript. JavaScript framework, we will be using React, and also at the same time, no JavaScript framework, because I will start my demo with initially no JavaScript framework so that you people can gel around with all the files, and then we'll move towards React once we complete our React training. And code editor, you can use any one of them, Atom, Sublime, or anyone. I will be using Visual Studio Code. So this is the open source tooling which we can use. So if I compare it with the server-side tool comparison, that what was there before and what is there in the modern technologies or modern tool chain. So this is just a comparison. So for example, earlier while doing the .NET development, we use MS Build to build our project, and here we are using Gulp. So you can say this is kind of a just task runner. So earlier for installing some references or adding some references, we had Nugget packages or Nugget terminal, you can say. Here we have NPM. So don't worry about this if you don't know about these technologies, modern technologies specifically, because I am here to help you and I will cover all these topics. So don't worry about this. This is the first day of the training and you will be trained in all these topics. So before going to these details, let's start with a demo quickly so that you people will understand. And I will just request that whatever code I am writing, you can go ahead along with me on your terminals at your own places, so that if you have any difficulty or if you are getting any errors, so that we can rectify then and there. So as and when I am writing the code, it will be helpful for you on your machines that you also go along with me and type the code and write the code and see what is happening. So I'm minimizing this window now and let's get started with the demo quickly. We will create a very small NPM based project. So in our first demo, I will go ahead and install Node NPM, and I will basically introduce you what NPM based development looks like. So let's dive into a demo. I am on a Windows 10 machine. Okay, I'm using a laptop. I'm on a Windows 10 machine. You probably might be using a server or a window log machine, no problem at all. Okay, so before diving into the demo, I want to show you something. I've opened the Google Chrome browser and I've opened nodejs.org, https nodejs.org. You can see the URL. You can install the Node version from here if you have not installed yet. To be very precise, I've already installed Node on my machine, so I'm not going to install it again. But as you are doing it for the first time, I will recommend that you always use the LTS version. LTS stands for long-term support. And I will tell you, I want to tell you one thing. Some people might be having these questions that why I can't install this current version because it is giving me latest features, and why Vipul as a trainer is recommending LTS version. So I'm not recommending it. The scenario is that we have version 1.8.2 of SPFx as of now released from Microsoft. I repeat, we are using version 1.8.2 of SPFx, which is the latest version released from Microsoft. Okay. And SPFx only supports either the Node version 8, 8.x, or now it is supporting 10.x. All other versions will not be supported with SPFx development. So that's why I recommend it for all of the developers that use this version and not this version. So the moment you click here, a window will open and you have to just do next, 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 and Node will get installed on your machine. And I believe there will be no problem in installing Node. It's just a matter of doing 4 clicks, next, 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 and Node will be installed on your machine. Okay, and as you can see, Node itself is saying that it's a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's version 8 JavaScript engine. And I will tell you one thing, that Node version, it releases very fast. So Node is releasing its version very fast. So be specific about your version, which version you are using for SPFx development. It might be possible, if you want to test, I can give you a scenario. Do one thing, install this version on your machine, okay? The version 12.2.0, which you can see on the screen, and create SPFx web part. You will be able to create it, but the moment you will do gulp serve means the moment you will build and run your web part, it will give you an error. Why error? The reason being you are using the version which is not supported in SPFx as of now. Okay, so it's better we don't get errors during the development, so we'll be using this version. Cool. Another website which I want to tell you is npmjs.com. I believe you all will be writing as a note somewhere, maybe in Notepad or maybe in your terminals in your system. All these URLs will help you in the future and during the course of this training. And this is day 1. That's why I'm telling this. During the other days, because we have other modules to cover, I will be not covering these topics again. So be precise. You will be writing all these things. This is the nodejs.org. Another is npmjs.com. So what this site is, this is a node package manager JS site. So different packages are available across the world which you can use. So if I write here, let's say npm, so it gives me CLI or npm what I can install, or if I write, let's say movement, so movement.js, so it is giving me that I can add movement, pass, validate, manipulate, and display dates if I want to play with dates. Okay, so let's say jQuery UI. Okay, so it is giving me a library called jQuery or jQuery UI also, which I can add in my SPFx solution. So this site is just for the packages from where we can install and use the packages in our solution. Okay. Now another site. This is again a very good site which I want to recommend. This is a GitHub site for SharePoint Framework. You just note the URL, what the URL it is giving you. This particular website is giving a complete information, and it is official information from Microsoft related to SharePoint Framework, where you can see and watch everything related to SharePoint Framework. Okay. Now, if I talk about these release notes, as you can see the release notes, it has started with 1.0, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, and 1.8. And this is the most recent version of SPFx. This you should know. And specifically, this is not 1.8, this is 1.8.2, which was released in around March 2019. So if I want to see the release notes that what has been released for SharePoint Framework 1.8.2, so if you read here carefully, so these are the two very important announcements or release notes which we have, that for the React scaffold projects, we now add Office UI Fabric React version 6 to package.json. Don't worry about these terminologies. If you don't know, you will get to know during the end of this training in day 1 only. So you will know each and everything, don't worry. Now this is the most important line I'm talking about. See this line. So this is very important to understand. So what it is saying is, and it is released, this release note of March 2019. So I'm not talking about very old release. I'm talking about the recent release. So please remember, either use 10 point something something or 8 point something something. Okay. I will also teach you that how this versioning happening. This is called SEMver, that is semantic versioning. I will tell you about that also during the course of training. No problem. Okay. So another thing, how to set up the Office 365 tenant. Again, very important thing. And you might have faced this issue that you have to enter your credit card details, even if you want to go with the trial version. Okay. So if you go from this site or this particular URL, you have to enter the credit card details and it will give you a 1 month free trial, Office 365. But I have another URL, I will show you, and it will not ask me for any credit card details or any payment details, and my Office 365 E3 account will get created. Okay, so this is the URL. So it says products.office.com en-n business enterprise E3 business software. So when I click here, free trial, which I will show you the demo, don't worry about that. I will show you the complete demo, how we will set up our Office 365 tenant today itself. And you will get a complete knowledge that my E3 license for 1 month has been activated, and I can create any type of site collections, and I can use OneDrive, SharePoint, and other Office applications. So we'll go through that. Another thing which I want to show you during this training, that I write articles and blogs. So I'm a blogger, you can say. I create videos, I write articles. So on C# Corner site, this is a C# Corner site. If you search for my name, so you will find my profile over here, because I have written many articles on SPFx. So you will find me over here. Just a minute, it is loading. So you will find me over here, and you can go to the articles which I have written. So in these articles, you can search for SharePoint articles which I have written specifically. And I want to show you one of them, just so that whatever we are studying, if you have missed anything during the course of training probably, so you can refer my articles very well, and you can go through what has been covered during that particular day. So you can say here, I have written articles with this heading, Introduction to SharePoint Framework, 0 to Hero Series, Part 2. I have written Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, and all other topics on SPFx. So if you go through these articles, you will get a good idea that how we can go ahead step by step. I have also my own blog site, that is sharepointeducation.wordpress.com, where I write again articles and blog. You can again refer my site, my blog site, for your reference, future references. Okay, so let's get started with the demo now. Cool. Okay. So as I mentioned that I have already installed Node on my machine. So I'm not going to the site nodejs.org, because I've already installed it. You people have to go over there and install the 10 point something, I think 10.15 version, which I showed you just now. So Node, when I talk about Node, just understand Node comes with a bunch of modules that allow you to interact with things like how you can interact Node with, you can interact with file system, you can interact with, or you can make HTTP calls. Okay. And there is another side, npm.js, which is, you can say, a Node registry, or where there are a lot of Node packages people have built. So this is a reusable code. Okay. So since my Node.js is installed, I am opening the Node.js command prompt. I am running it as administrator. Okay. So now, as you can see, it is already saying that your environment has been set up for using Node.js 8.12.0 and NPM. In your case, it will be 10.15.0. So that's not a problem. That's not at all a problem. Okay. And since Node is installed on my machine, so let's check it out, how it is giving me since Node is installed. So what message it will give me? Great. So it is saying that Node is installed. So if you are seeing on your screen this kind of output, it means that the node is installed. I am terminating this session. For terminating this session, you can press Control C. I have pressed Control C and now I am pressing .exit. Okay, cool. So node is installed on my machine. This is confirmed. Okay, and now let's check. How can I check the node version? So I'm writing node -v. So I'm just checking what version of node I have installed. So it is telling me I have installed 8.12.0 version on my machine. So I will suggest that whatever commands I am writing on this Node.js command prompt, you go ahead with me. Okay, and you also write all these commands in your particular terminals. I just want to say one thing. You can even use command prompt. You can use Node.js command prompt, and you can use other command prompts, third-party command prompts like CMDR commander or any other command prompt, no problem at all. All are same. It will not make any difference. Okay. So Node has given me a prompt. Node.js is installed and a version is installed, and that's good. So there are a bunch of modules in here that are available by installing Node. But as I mentioned, that one of the interesting module I am very much interested in is NPM. NPM stands for Node Package Manager. Okay, well, that makes sense because Node updates a lot more often than NPM. So one of the first thing we do after installing Node, in fact, is to say, I will write NPM install -g NPM. So now Node modules can be installed globally. That's why I have used -g. As you can see, I have used -g. It stands for globally. So when you install them globally, you can just run them from command like any other DOS program, but they can also be installed locally, and they go into a folder called node_modules. So that's the meaning of -g over there. Then they are available. These are available for use in the code. And if you don't use -g, then they will not be available at the operating system level. And I'm assuming that you all are using Windows machine. If any one of you is using the Mac, then I will say that you have to write sudo before this command. So in your case, if you are using a Mac machine, a Macintosh Apple machine, so you have to write sudo, sudo, and then you have to write the same command, that is npm install -g npm, and then you press enter. Okay, and the package, npm package, the latest one will be installed. But since I am using Windows machine, that's why I have not used sudo. So I have hit enter now, and it has gone online, and it looks in the npm registry, installed a package called npm for me. It's downloading it and installed it. Now, when I say install, it's a very big word. It's a very heavy word, because it is, you might be thinking that it is doing a lot many changes in my registry. Actually, it's really not. So when I'm installing things globally, you might have questioned that it is affecting my operating system, it is affecting my registry. This is not the case, so don't worry about that. What it is doing is, I want to tell you that it is just copying a bunch of JavaScript file into my profile. Because you can uninstall it. You can say npm uninstall -g. So it will uninstall all the npm packages and dependency from your system. Else, if you want to update it, so you can say npm update. npm update. So these are the different commands which you can use at any point of time. And please believe me, it is not affecting your operating system at all. It is just copying a bunch of JavaScript file into your computer profile and nothing else. Okay, cool. So let's start. So what I will do is I will create a directory. I will say mkdir. Mkdir is a command to create or to make the directory. Okay. So I will say SPFx demo. Okay. I will say SPFx demo. So at this location, it has created a folder for me with the name SPFx demo, and let's go into this SPFx demo folder. Okay. So I am in my folder and I'm going to into that directory. And what I am going to do right now is npm init -- yes. And now let's see what it has done. Very much interesting part over here. From here, your actual practical training starts. Please remember, please focus what I am going to teach you now. I have written the command npm init -yes. And what it has done, that it has basically wrote out a file called package.json for me. Package.json, it has wrote this file for me. And why I have used yes over here? Why I have used -- yes? Because, so let's say if I don't hit yes, so it's going to ask me a very bunch of questions, a very long questions it's going to ask me. And then if I've put yes, I have just answered yes to all those default questions, default yes to all those questions. And thus basically it wrote a package.json file for me. Now what is this package.json? The very first file I am teaching you, please remember, the very first file in any npm or node-based project is package.json, which you have to learn. And we will learn it today itself. So package.json is central to all those, you can say all node-based projects. You can think of is as my introduction. So during the start of this training, I gave my introduction, correct? My name is Vipul Jain, blah, blah, blah. So how you will give the introduction of a node-based project? So package.json is the file which gives the introduction. What are my dependencies? What are my dev dependencies? What are the things I need only at the runtime? Or you can see on the screen, what is the name of the project? What is the version I am using? What is the description? What is the main file I would be using? This is the default value, index.js. So it's telling me what's my name, what's my version, description. So if I'm writing a library that other wants to use, then this versioning things is very important. Currently it's 1.0.0. So it has documented all that in here. Okay. So let me go ahead and open this in Visual Studio Code. So let's do it. So I will write, for opening this in Visual Studio Code, you can just write code space dot and enter. Please remember what I am teaching you, how you have to open your code directly from here in the Visual Studio Code. You have to write code space dot and then enter. It will directly open this code file package.json in Visual Studio Code, that is the editor. So if you will not put the code, the dot over here, and if you will put the dot over here, what will, and press enter, what will happen? That Visual Studio Code might open your previously opened project. It will not open the current project. It will open the previously opened project in your Visual Studio Code, which we don't want, obviously. We want the current project on which we are working in, so I press enter. So let the Visual Studio Code open. Great. So I have my editor ready with a file package.json, and I have a separate command prompt, Node.js command prompt, where I will be writing my commands. And here I will be writing the code. So let's do one thing. Let's separate the screen so that we can see both the editor and the command prompt together. So let me do that. What I can do is, cool. So now we can see both things simultaneously. I think it will be visible. Okay, great. Great. Okay, so now I can see my code over here, what I would be writing over here or creating new files, and parallelly I can see what I'm writing in the command prompt. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is that I want to write a program, okay, which works with dates. Now, as we all know, as a developer, working with dates is very difficult problem to solve in any language. But it is certainly also difficult to solve in JavaScript. There are too many cases to worry about. But there is a library which save our life, and that is called movement.js. And I personally love this library because it helps me in solving my issues with dates. So there is a library which somebody else has written, I have not written it, that I can leverage. Okay, so I can simply add movement into my project. So I come to this package.json, okay, and I can type dependencies. So a bunch of other choices here as well. So what I will do, what I'm saying is, let's say I write here dependencies, okay, and when I write here dependencies, you can see that there will be different options that it will be giving to me. Because if I write, say, let's say I want to write movement. Oops. So it gives me an option that I can write my dependencies in the package.json. So I can come to my package.json and I can start typing movement. It is actually querying the npm registry. Okay. But I don't want to install my dependency from package.json. I don't want to install it. Oops. What I want is that I want to install from my command prompt. I want to install this from command prompt so that it gets automatically added to my package.json. So what I can do is that I will write here npm install movement -- save. So what I'm right now, generally speaking, means I don't use writing or doing editing in package.json if I want to install any particularly library. Okay, so I go to and specifically movement here, and then on my left hand side I have written npm install --save, and that I will do is that it's basically the same thing, but it is going online. So just press enter. So it's going online and it is creating the package registry. You can say npm.js registry, and went ahead and created this modified package.json. So I think just a minute. Okay. Now, as you can see that it has added the movement in the node modules folder over here. You can see the movement, and inside is a movement.js has been added in my solution in the node modules folder. And it created a folder here called node_modules. And in the node_modules folder, it has created another folder called movement, because it has downloaded movement online for me. As you can see, that's great. Now it's really cool because it has not just downloaded the movement, it also downloaded all the intelligence for me. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a file called, let's say, index.json. So you write the command copy and write null index.js. So if you see over here, a file gets added. I'm writing on the command prompt, and right away you can see in the editor. Just a minute. So let's write some code in index.js now. So I've created a file on the right hand side, you can say, called index.js, and here I can start using movement.js because now it's a, you can say, part of my project. So I have installed the movement locally, so it's not available at the command line but in my programs. Okay, so when I write code, so what I'm going to write is, let's say, var movement equal to require, and I will say movement. So what I'm writing is, what I'm doing is here, require. What is this require? Node.js, we know it understands ESX, and ESX understands module learning. So what we are doing here are that we are basically telling our program, or you can say Node.js is telling our program that I intend to load something. What I intend to load something? I intend to load movement. Okay, I intend to load something, and that something is called movement. And what it will do, that it will look for a file. This movement, it will look for a file somewhere in my solution, which is called movement.js, and it will find it. Then it will, if it is does not find it, for example, again it will find in another solution or another folder, and it will find it. So it will look all the folders or the files until it find movement.js. And basically, specifically, you can say it always gets installed under node modules in movement folder. Movement is again a folder, and in movement there is a movement.js. Okay. So I'm writing the code, I'm writing where movement, and I want to console the current date time. So I will write console.log. I will always use this. Okay. And I will write movement.format. I want to format the date or display the current date time, you can say. dd comma, I want to write, let's say, hour, or I'm just doing a console.log, and always I have put semicolon so that it's a good idea. You can say I'm going to say movement.format, and I'm just formatting the today's date. It is hour, and let's say minute, colon, second, and AM, PM. It will show like that. So it is just showing the current date, hours, minutes, seconds, and AM, PM. And this is the simplest Node.js based program, you can say. Okay. Now the question is that how do I run it? What is the way to run this file? Because it's a node based project, I can simply say node index.js and hit enter, and it will start running. So let's see. I will say node index.js, and as you can see, it has run the code. Now you can see it's May 18th, 2019, and it is showing me the current time. I think you all can see. Okay. So what we have done is, now we have created a package.json. We have added a dependency called movement.js. It has created the node modules folder for me. Under node modules, I have movement.js, and I have just written a very simple node project to show the current date time. That's what we have done. Okay. It's very fantastic to see it. Now I want to show you that there is one more way to run this file, and that's very much important, because see, what we have done here is that I have just wrote node index.js, and I'm just calling a file, and it is showing me the message or the output. That's pretty simple. But we should know the another way to run it, which will help in SPFx projects going forward, and from that you will understand the structure of a particular file. Okay, so what I can do is that I can go to my package.json. I will go to package.json. Okay, and I can modify this scripts thing here. So you can see, let me stretch it just a minute. Okay, so you all can see a script thing over here. So this is a test script, echo error, no test specified, and so on. We can write n number of scripts we want. So npm or node gives us some default scripts. You can say we write scripts like, let me write it, let's say test or pre-test or post restart, or you can say post install. So all these are default scripts, and there are some words you can say which are reserved here, and they have unique meaning. Okay, and IntelliSense you can see is helping us over here to run node index.js. Okay, so what I will do is I will write some command over here. I will write start and index.js. Okay, so another way to write this file is I will write here start. I will write here start. Okay, and I will write node index.js. Just give a space over here. Okay, cool. So what I have done is that instead of running the file, directly running the file using node index.js, you can write your own script. See, I have written my own script. I have written start script, which is saying node index.js, because it's a reserved word. So I can, the main concern is that till here we have created the package.json, we have created index.js. Now the main question you might be having, that we have written the code. We have written the code in index.js and we have showed the current date time, but how do I ship this code? This could be the next question, that where should I go ahead and ship my code, run the same program for me? This could be the next question. So for shipping this code particularly, we use another technology which is called Webpack. So Webpack is the technology which will bundle and ship this code for us. Now, another question before this, I just want to ask that we can give this index.js to the customer directly. This could be your one of the solution. Okay, that do I just send over this index.js to the customer? So what I am going to do is, let's show here. So I will write copy index.js dot dot. So one file has been copied, index.js has been copied to the one folder above. Okay, and now go to that folder, system32. Okay, and then I write node index.js. Now you see there is an error, and that's what I wanted to show you. Why it is showing me error? Because I told you that if I give directly this file index.js to the customer to run on their system probably, or I install this on their system, it has not find the module movement, because our movement module is on a different folder. Because as you can see in our code, this is using some other folder, SPFx demo, and we have copied this file and running it from somewhere. So it has not found movement.js. Okay. Now if I run from here again, it is running properly. So why this is happening? Because at this location, it is able to find all the node underscore modules folder, and it is able to find the movement.js folder or the movement.js file inside the movement folder. That's why the program was able to run from here. Okay, so we cannot give index.js, so that option is cancelled. Now the second option, shall I ship this whole node underscore modules folder, complete node module folder to the customer? Again, the answer is no. The reason being because there are many files inside it. There is a junk of files, you can say. So these junk of files out there might be probably put lot of junk, sometimes operating system specific or depending upon the operating system you are in. So this will put whole lot of junk on the customer end. So this is again not the solution. So we definitely want to ship it with some other way. So what we need here is a package manager. So Webpack is the tool, or you can say the most popular package manager, which we will look in the next demo.